What's up, world? It's your boy, Mike Muse, for another conversation on Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. I have heard so much about her, and she is an example of how you want people to talk about you when you are not in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, the dynamic, the VC, the investor, the brand marketer, the strategist, is a dope human being. Courtney Couch, what's happening, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so many people talk about you, Courtney, in such favorable ways. And I'm always impressed when, people are talked about in rooms that they are not in. I think that really just goes to show like who they are as a person and their decency. And I think sometimes when a persona can go before the brand or the product or the entity, I always feel the product or the brand has more success. What are your thoughts on that, just as a marketer?
I think it's very important to remember that no matter what your profession is, that we are in the human business, So when you interact and you have opportunities to be in the presence of people, or you meet someone on the street or in a restaurant, that you are a good human and you're a good person to them. And I thank God that, on this journey of life, I've met a lot of great people, and I've tried to bless people or just, speak to people, hug people, anything to just, let my light shine. And I think that as I've gotten older and life has been lifing, it's paid it forward to me a bunch of times. And I think it's a big blessing and I'm honored, but I think people forget to be nice to people. And it's just that simple. Be good to people. People just get that part. They forget it. It's not a factor to them anymore. People want to get money. They want to have friends. They want to be popular, but they don't want to do right by people on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's the missing factor in life at this point, So I'm happy to be able to just say, hey, I know some people and I've been good to them, and likewise. And I just think that that is a part of being a good human in any religion.
It's something I've been having a lot of conversation about being nice and being decent. I always say that you don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be besties, right? I just ask that people are decent. I'm going to have bad days, right? And so I don't want that to be a reflection of who I am in the totality of me. And if I know I'm struggling with something, my goal is always just to be decent, a smile, a hello. It doesn't hurt to say hello and to smile or wave or just shake a hand and go on about your day. But ironically, it is difficult for people to wrap their heads around just being decent.
I think so too. And maybe it's because I'm Southern, but when you see people, you say, hey, how you doing? And I've just never lost that part of me, even though I've lived in LA for 10 years. I lived in New York before that, but I'm going to speak to you. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Audience, I think this is why the audience, I love being to a person's constitution. And Courtney, just in this simple short time that we've already had, I've understood your constitution and why you are who you are. Folks, Courtney has raised over $1 million for her first round for her VC ventures. And in doing so, she has brought so many people to the table. Her constitution professionally, before I met her personally, was all about equity and equitable dynamics within the entertainment space, because we never own anything, right? And so we're so much used to just promoting and assisting the brands without really recognizing the equity. When I think about that, Courtney, I just can't help but think that if this line from Beyonce was a person in that song where she says, pay me in equity, right? I think that is like your whole persona. Is that dynamic right there? Speak to that.
Wow, Mike. First of all, that's an incredible analogy, and I really appreciate that, but as you were saying, I've done a lot of brand deals, and, as you're trying to market talent, you want them to be a part of these brands to grow their brands. But what I found is that we have so much buying power and we're so influential in our culture, and we make everything hot that we touch as Black people. We are a pop culture. And so when I sat and thought about the evolution of my brand and how I wanted to be a catalyst amongst my peers, it was time for me to take it to a different level and say, hey, 100,000 up front is all right, but what about $100,000 worth of equity in this new company? What about these back end opportunities? What about the seats at the table that we don't always have the opportunities to be at? So when the opportunity to, work with Pathwater and they allotted me $1 million, I immediately thought about my friends and my peers and how we need ownership in these brands that we make hot. And so, in my mind initially, I was like, oh, if they allot me $1 million, I need need 10 people to give me 100,000. Now, it wasn't that simple, but in my mind, when I was thinking about it, that's how I calculated it done in 3 weeks, but I just was thinking about the fact that we don't own anything in our communities, but we are always buying it, reselling it, rapping about it, singing about it, posting it. So what if we had the opportunity to be a part of the ownership team?
Audience, if you don't know where this is heading to by now, this is about entrepreneurship conversation. This is about access to capital. And this is really about equity and owning your stake in something. I can't tell you, Courtney, how many times my audience DMs me for all the things, and I love it. What I'm really loving is that my audience is really now focusing on finance. And this isn't a finance conversation audience per se, right? Courtney is not going to give you financial advice, nor am I, right? But this is about understanding how to get access to capital, how to think about capital, how to think about equity. I know a lot of you wanting to be entrepreneurs, wanting to start your businesses and companies. This is for you. And even if you don't, this is how to understand what your friends or family may be going through as founders and how you can support them on their business and their journey. So with that, Courtney, I love what you're saying. And I think you also too are the embodiment of my frustration, and I have with, no, and this isn't to knock anyone, but there was something about back in the day when Busta Rhymes did that song Pass the Cavassier, right? And I cringed. I think I was still in undergrad or maybe high school. I wasn't even thinking about entrepreneurship. I wasn't thinking about my time in the United States Small Business Administration. I wasn't even thinking about anything, but I just knew how much free marketing Cavassier was getting. And I was like, I hope he got $100 million off of that, because even to this day, I'm still talking about Pass the Cavassier, right? And I'm like, I don't know what the true story is. I don't think he got anything, what his value, what he brought to them was. Right. And this is what you're talking about.
Right. Yes. Or when Nike or when Nelly made the song about Air Force Ones.
That. Yes, it's like free marketing. In places Nike would spend millions of millions to get in. I'm thinking about, and I love the Migos, but the Versace, like it was just the amount of times, the repetitiveness of that word, like Versace came into play. I'm just like, we give up so much of our equity, not really realizing that we could have a stake in all of this.
And not really realizing that we are Midas. And everything we touch, talk about, rap about, post turns to gold, So just like the price of Air Force Ones soared after Nelly's song, did they offer him an equity piece? What did they do? Maybe send him some pairs of Nikes, but how does that help him in his community, So now that we know what our buying power is, that is the best in the world, how do we get a piece of that, So we're always rapping about something and singing about it. So now I just feel like it's time for us to own it.
Now your career is extensive, creative agencies, marketing agencies, you've been in-house of record labels as director of marketing for Atlantic, I believe. I'm just curious, like, when did you make that pivot to say, okay, now is the time for me to transition and leverage my network and resources, a collection of people that I have, and now let's pivot it for entrepreneurship endeavors and stake, right? And I love the idea that is true 360 deal, right? Like back when I was starting my independent record deal, I was coming in that moment where we had a hybrid of digital and physical CDs, but I recognized the need to do 360s and to partner with brands before I even launched. I didn't even have a true concept of what the 360 was at the time, but I was able to get partnership with Starbucks, Chrysler, McDonald's, the NFL, the NBA at a time when most other labels couldn't get it from their artists, right? But I just understood then, right, the importance of doing that, right? But now you're taking it even further with now presenting investment opportunities. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So I come from a family of entrepreneurs, first of all. So let me start there. My parents, have kind of led the way of being renegades for me my whole life. And so I just think differently. I like to say my journey has been unorthodox, So oftentimes I've had people come to me about, oh, can such and such invest in this? But I'm very protective of my circle. I'm not bringing Joe Smo to the table to talk about a clothing line or a hot dog stand or lemonade, because I respect my relationships enough to, be able to vet opportunities and figure out what's what. So prior to Rashawn Williams of Manhattan Venture Funds has come to me before about different opportunities for athletes, and he helped me get my clients into SpaceX and Wish, and has brought me opportunities like Lyft and all these things. So I had always had different opportunities to, elevate my groups, but I wasn't standing tall in it. And he was the first person to tell me, you should just start your own SPV. You should do this. But finance is so scary to me. I'm going to be very honest. Like investor relations, financial literacy is something that I still want to learn more about. I'm still educating myself on it every day. So when he was suggesting to me that I start my own SPV, I'm like, Rashawn, no, I don't have time.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Well, I'm gonna stop you right there, Courtney. You and I know what it is, but what is an SPV for our audience who may not be familiar with it?
A special purpose vehicle. So you can start an SPV if you want your friends if you want to take a group of people and have one investment pool bank, and then you guys can invest in real estate, or you can invest in anything you want. I created my SPV to specifically fund Pathwater. Is what I did. So it's a bunch of people get together, put their money one place. Okay, awesome. So now when it came time, this opportunity came across my desk for Pathwater, I actually didn't have time to look at the deck that was sent to me from my friend Namdi, and I was on vacation, and I was at the one hotel, and I looked and I said, is that the bottle that's in my email? And as the Lord would have it, my mind was clear and I was able to see it. And I was just thinking that, it was scary in my mind, but I thought it was necessary, because one thing I know that me and my peers can understand is sustainability, water, and that by, I think, 2050, the statistic is that there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So when you break it down like that, and then add that I think 2/3 of Jay-Z's wealth came from beverages, everybody want to have a conversation. Now let's talk about it, So it's the key things that make it make sense. And then knowing that we don't get the opportunities to have a seat at the cap table.
But when you talk about the cap table, give me a little bit of background about what a cap table is for audiences who may not be familiar with that. Audience, y'all getting some schooling today. Courtney College went to University of North Carolina as well as NYU, so she thought it'd give us a professorial dynamics right now with this cap table. Come on, Cap.
Now, let me let y'all know something. I went to business school in the 3 weeks that I had to raise this money, So basically, it's the investment table. When people are looking at who's investing in the company, they want to know who are the participants. And the cap table, what I brought to the cap table was Crown Lux Ventures. And it consisted of a bunch of athletes, entertainers, and entrepreneurs, inclusive of Danny Green, Travis Scott, Quality Control Music, a bunch of different people that I have in my network that want to come together to do this.
Thank you, Professor. Audience, Jay-Z talks about something. I forgot the line, Courtney, but you might help me out. It's in God Did, in his iconic verse that he says, I'm at the cap table. I'm not talking about the cap you're thinking about, right? It's a play on it. Did I get the line right, Courtney? I just did it off a recall.
You did a great job, okay? Because that is one of my favorite verses. And when I got this raise, I had it on repeat when it came out. And I was just like, Warren Buffett gave Jay-Z the stamp to say, hey, if you guys want to look up to someone that understands financial literacy and is a real beast at this, you need to look at Jay-Z, So that's one of my favorite rappers, one of my favorite entrepreneurs in life. So it is.
And audience, the reason I'm having fun with this right now is because Courtney I knew she could handle the things I'm doing because she lives it and she's doing it. And so, but Courtney, I love to always educate my audience too as well. I never want to assume everyone knows some of these terminologies. A lot of it is foreign for us, right? And there is a lot of my audience out there who could do their own SPV, right? And so I just want to make sure everyone is aware of the terminologies as we're talking about it. And I think that's why hip hop is such an incredible vehicle, which is, I love how you said the Midas. We're Midas, right? But we don't even see the value of it. Like we don't see the value of our community, right? And even I talk about intellectual property as social justice, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I lecture at like Harvard Law. I already have a law degree, but I lecture at Harvard Law School, Georgetown Law, because we give away too much of our isms and cultural things just away for free. And then a company comes and takes our styling and our slang and then incorporates it for their marketing without even realizing that we're giving it up. I always talk about like, there's this t-shirt I saw that says, it's ghetto until Vogue says it's not, right? And then so, but we give that up before Vogue gets to it, right?
Yes.
And so this is why I love what you're doing is you're showcasing and proving to not just my audience, but to society, the power of hip hop, right? And I'm using hip hop as a culture, right? And not just about the music.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, Mike, what you're saying is that there's so much power in group economics. And as Black people, we don't come together enough to put our coins together. And the way I broke it down to my folks is we go to a lot of places and we spend a lot of money. We'll bust down some dinners, jets, Magic City, different things, but it would behoove us to put it together for something like this, you know, and, you know, everybody has to eat that and digest it, but it's the truth. And when you think about it like that, you know, it's time. And so the people that understand it, they do, and they have. And they've had in a long time. Now it's time for us to understand and do it together, you know, instead of getting together and making everybody else rich. Let's get together and practice group economics and tell each other what we're doing. Hey, I have this company that maybe we can all, you know, put $10,000 in and we can buy this land, or we can go over here and we can go into this new company, you know, just group economics is at the key of generational wealth for us. And I really want that to be something that is understood in our communities.
I love that. So now that you have your SPV, now that you're a part of Pathway, so now that we're here about group economics, and audience, I want to be very clear and mindful. There are other people in the hip hop industry, music industry, Black people who are investing, but I know a lot about, you know, I don't see a lot of people doing what you're doing, Courtney, in the sense of, as a collective bringing people. I don't want to be as ever ignorant and being absolutely say you're the only one, but you're the one of few that's doing it. I know individuals who are doing it. I know individuals have their own fund, but their fund isn't a group dynamic in a community, and they usually consist of others, which is totally fine, right? But what you're doing is, that's why I want to celebrate you for essentially breaking barriers and being historic in your own regard. In particular, as a Black woman, it's difficult for Black women to, and Black men, it's just difficult, right? But like for female founders in general, and then also too, for founders who are like VC or who participate in that capital raise space. I just wanted to salute you with that. So now that we have it, talk to us with our audience now about like what happens next, right? Without giving away any of your personal information, no finances, nothing like that. So now that you guys raised $1 million, you have a seat at the table now with Path, like what happens now next with Path? And then what are you guys now thinking about other ways now? Because now you guys have something in your portfolio.
Yeah. So I'm a strategic advisor for Pathwater now to utilize the partners within my fund to be strategic partners for them, so that basically we can be a part of the culture, because you can't build a brand without utilizing multicultural marketing. It's just impossible. You know, everybody wants to use the slang, you know, you want to be at the basketball games, the football games, videos. So it's just no way to grow a brand without targeting a specific audience, which is Black and brown people. So I'm working with them to utilize all the people in my SPV and then my relationships on top of that as well to grow the brand, because I love it and I love the CEO and all the founders. Now, next is that since this Forbes article has come out, and thank God for it, I was very blessed. That's right. Thank you.
Flex on it.
Put a little something on it. Okay, all right.
A little Forbes. What's your little Forbes article sell?
The goal for me, Mike, is to have other private companies come to me and want to have us at the cap table with them now. I want to be able to bring other opportunities to the rest of my team, because I missed a lot of people when I was doing this raise. It was my first one. I did it in 3 weeks. I want to be able to sit all my folks down and say, hey, we have this coming up. Do you want to invest in this? How much? And since then, I've had some pretty awesome opportunities come across my table, and I would like for them to keep coming and giving us opportunities to invest in these companies before they go public.
I can't help but smile because Courtney, in the backdrop, what's happening right now is I'm going on my second national tour with Chevrolet. And part of this tour, we're looking at, so I'm inviting you to be on the panel, and my team has just got to deal with it. We're looking at we're focusing specifically on one panel in one stop of the tour on Black females and entrepreneurship. But I'm looking at it from a perspective of, look, we know all the data, we know all the statistics about how hard it is, all the things. But I want to reframe the narrative with understanding that, rooting that in the conversation, but then celebrating what Black women are doing, right? And to celebrate like people like you who are providing spaces and places, because it's a revolutionary act unto itself, right? And so I just love how you're thinking about it. I love how you're thinking about group economics. And audience, and Courtney, I want you to elaborate too where I go with this. She's a strategic advisor, and so with Pathways. So now normally when you're a founder, there's multiple ways that you can look at your cap table, and there's multiple ways you can look at VCs. Sometimes you can go into VCs to be hands-off, you don't want no part of them. Sometimes, unfortunately, you may get a VC or an investor who happens to be more hands-on than you want. But the goal is to always have a really key strategic advisor who is an investor who then can advise you strategically. So the value that Courtney is bringing to Pathways, not just in the sense of bringing the money, but she's also now bringing the multicultural marketing to it. And now she sits as a strategic advisor, which is what they want in an investor, right? And so I think that's really key that I want to explain that, Courtney, in terms of, and how has that experience been for you, just being a strategic advisor, like within that space? Because now I want to talk to people who want to maybe entrepreneurial, right? Or individuals who want to be like strategic advisors within their own corporation in terms of how do you look at multicultural dynamics more from an economic unit versus just a D&I play?
Well, okay, multiple responses here, right?
Yeah, take your time with it. I know there's a kind of layer. Okay. There's a layer.
Okay. No problem. First of all, the CEO of Pathwater, Shadi, he made this raise a real experience for me and my peers. He took every call. We did probably 10 Zooms. And, we're investing in Nike or Apple. You're not talking to Tim Cook. You're not going to do that. You better get a book or ask one of your friends in finance. But what he did was he answered every question for all of my guys. And that really meant a lot to me. And that showed me what his character was like. And it showed me about the ethos of his company by itself, So that made me want to continue to give him ideas or, just talk to him, ask him questions of my own. But the thing about being a strategic advisor or being in these spaces where you're doing one thing and it transforms into something else is that you have to get out of the way of yourself of thinking you're just supposed to do one thing. Okay. You can't just put yourself in a box or in the box that people put you in. I raised the money. I didn't think about what really was coming after that. I didn't think about how I was going to raise $1 million in 3 weeks. And I thought that's what all the finance people were doing. I didn't know it took years and a lot of time.
I was about to say, you've been floating on that really quickly. I just want to just give gravitas to that. Audience, that is difficult. To raise $1 million in 3 weeks is unheard of, in particular in this climate that we're in right now. But I just want to say that's a testament to you, your constitution. Always talk about Courtney, I think this is showing in light of you, is that when I was doing the political fundraising for Obama, I looked at how I was so successful was people were giving to me, right? More so than to him as an entity. And people forget that. Forget that.
They believed in you. They believed in you, because if I was shiesty or I didn't have a good character or a good rapport, I wasn't trusted. See, you still have to be a trusted person. Like you said, you still have to be a good person. So since I'm not a used car salesman and I'm not knocking down doors with any and everything, and I live my life in a certain way, then I could therefore go present things like this to my peers without having to middleman it, dumb it down, water it down, go around. And so I don't take that for granted. And so now when you look at it, you're like, how can I be my best self and contribute? Some people just want to do one thing and they think when someone asks them to do something else, oh, I don't want to do that. That's not my job description. I'm a little red-handed if I need to. So with this, I'm bringing everybody to the table. I'm responsible in my heart for my peers is $1 million. So now how are we going to use this and their likeness and my, expertise to hit this out the ballpark? You can have whatever for me so we can get this done. And that's what I feel like the mindset has to be of a winner. We're going to throw it all against the wall and see what sticks, but we're going to get it done,
I love that. Courtney, there's going to be so many more conversations I want to have with you, both on air and off air. I'm just excited. I think we're just scratching the surface. Audience, just for you to know, I'm now officially launching my entrepreneurial series on the Mike Muse Show. So this is our first kickoff. Yeah, so Courtney, you're kicking it off. Audience, next coming down the pipeline, I'm going to talk to a brother who is over another similar type of venture that Courtney is doing that's really focusing, Courtney, on Black people having ownership in the beverage and spirit space, right? And creating accelerators for that. So audience, if you have an interest in accelerators, if you have an interest in starting your own spirit line, you definitely want to stay tuned because that is coming up next. Courtney, how can people, reach you who may want to be maybe an investor in your SPV, who may want to get involved in some of the other investments that you may come down the pipeline, or if you just want to hit you up and ask you questions, how can people connect with you?
You guys can reach out to me at Courtney, COURTNEY at CLUXE.co. And Mike, I'll send it to you. And I'm so thankful to be on this platform and for your great energy. And I look forward to keeping this going. Okay. Anything you need, I'm a resource to you as well.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It's been an honor and pleasure. Audience, until next time, peace.